then we have Tristan,
Tibor, Ross,
Sean,
Martin,
Chris,
Cliff,
Paula,
Paul,
Peter,
Primali,
Asante, Dan.
Stephen, Saul, Uli,
Christina, Linda,
Tas, Adrian.
Andrew, Dean,
and we have Sheila,
Michael.
Mitra. Lovely, and we have Bob. Off you go, Bob. Just get this. Thank you.
Good morning, all.
Morning.
Well, I know what it's all about. They point to non-duality here. And start off by telling you I can't teach you anything. And I can't tell you anything. Understand that right from the start. All I can do is point toward and ask you to look to where I'm pointing to see for yourself. Because that's what it's all about, seeing for yourself. There's no one who can give it to you. We could probably talk about is non-duality. Non-duality, from Advaita translated, means one without a second, not two. Only the one essence that patterns, shapes, forms, experiences and expressing as everything. Only that. And that is the great mantra. I am that, you are that, this is that, everything is that. And you know that's so, because you say, that's the chair I'm sitting on, that's the room the chair's in, that's the space in the room, that's the tree, that's all that. We all know that everything is already that which we discriminate by the word, by putting different labels on the word. And when you understand that the word is not the thing, the word is not the real, well, you see it in a totally different light. Another way I put it, I'm not speaking to anybody. I'm not speaking to any mind. I'm not speaking to that body-mind entity that you might think you are. What I'm speaking to is that I am, the I am that I am, that expresses through the mind as that thought I am. Just to this and nothing else. So that's what we point to, the absolute non-duality, the great perfection, as they call it in Buddhism. And they give it to you in one sentence here. They say, the great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. Awareness without any concepts or thoughts or mental constructs. And in Advaita they say it's Sat Chit Ananda Nama Rupa. Sat is existence. Chit is consciousness. Ananda is loving to be. And Nama Rupa is the body-mind. They say Nama Rupa, the body-mind, is Maya. It's illusion. But you can't deny your existence, can you? You can't deny you're not unconscious or unaware. You are aware and conscious right now. And nobody wants to be dead right at this moment, so you're happy to be. So you might not have understood it, but you are already that. Always have been and always will be. And you must recognise from that the search itself becomes the problem. Because what you are seeking you already are. And when you see through that, you realise how ridiculous that could be. So it's a matter of recognising and what they say, knowing the truth. Know the truth and the truth will set you free. What are you free from? You're free from this belief that you are a person, a separate entity, an individual. Where did that word person come from? Come from the ancient Latin persona, the mask, pointing out that we have this conceptual image. I am the person, I am Bob, the Australian, the good fellow, all a conceptual image, all based on past events, experiences and conditioning. But if I am not unaware right now, and there's a presence of awareness, and that awareness becomes conscious presence is functioning through each and every one of you right now. So you already are that. And that is all there is, that vibrate patterns and expresses as everything. And we've all learnt these words. And when you look at the word, you'll see the word is not the thing. Try and drink the word water. Try and cook with the word fire, or burn yourself with the word fire. Look into those words. What's this me or I that you believe yourself to be? We've taken it because we haven't questioned it into being this body-mind. But am I this body? We'll investigate that. And that's what they keep telling us. The false cannot stand up to investigation. When you investigate and look into these things, you see it's not true. Am I this body? I say my body. Don't you say my coat, my car, my house. You know you're not the coat, the car or the house. Well, maybe you're not the body either. And when you investigate it, you'll see what's this body made up of. You realise this body's made up of elements. Air, earth, fire, water, space. Try and separate yourself from the air. Stop breathing. See how long you'd last without that element. Stop drinking water. You'd soon dry of thirst. Take the body temperature. You'd soon get hypothermia if you weren't warm enough at night. Get out of space if you can. So when you realise you can't separate yourself from these elements, and these elements can be broken down to subatomic particles into pure energy. Now that's all this body is, a vibrating pattern of energy, which expresses in all these different patterns, shapes and forms, the life. And you are that life. And that's what Nisargadatta tells you. There is only life. There is nobody who lives the life. And he means that simply that. The body is not life. The life is expressing through the body and forming the body. And you are the life. That's what Christ tells you. I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. Not talking to himself about this as this person, but that's presence awareness. And is anybody unaware right now of being present? That conscious presence is with you right now. Recognise it. They say it's a cognising emptiness. Recognise that emptiness. And when the Buddha says that emptiness is form. All these forms, whether you like it or not, are emptiness. If we turn it round the other way, emptiness is form, and said that forms can be nothing other than the emptiness. So it's all appearance. They call it a phenomenal manifestation. And the definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. Appearance means it seems to be so. We all seem to be this reality. But you look outside, you recognise that's not so. Things are not as they appear to be. Go down to the ocean, I say, get me a bucket of blue water out of the sea. You say, don't be an idiot, because you know the water's not blue. But doesn't it still appear to be blue, even if you know it or not? Look at the sky. You go outside on a clear day, there's a blue canopy over, what's seemingly over the sky. Go up in a plane 30 or 40,000 feet, is there any blueness there? There's not. There's many other metaphors I use to point it out, like the snake and the rope. A fellow steps out of his cabin on a dark, wet night, stands on a piece of wet rope, rolls under his feet and he believes he's trod on a snake. Hair stands on end and the goose pimples come and the fear's there that as he imagined the serpent's poison ripping through his body, he's shaken with fear. Somebody comes out with a torch. Look, it's only a wet piece of rope. When he sees it and recognises it, all that fear disappears, but it doesn't stop. The body doesn't settle down straight away. It'll take a little bit of time to settle down. But left as it is, it will settle down. The same here. We've got this conceptual idea and image that we are this separate entity, this individual, this person. When you investigate and recognise it is not so, people say, I came here and I saw it, but I went away and it came back. How could it come back if it never existed in the first place? But we fell back into the same trap of believing the mind and the conceptualising that's going on. And the great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. And there's nobody who is unaware right at this moment here. That awareness is there and is expressing through that pattern, shape and body. What about this mind? Think I am my mind. Well, if you think you're the mind, investigate that. Show me a thing called mind. Can you show me anything that can call mind? There is no thing called mind apart from what we call thought. And if thought is mind, which particular thought would you be? Well, you believe you are that I am. That's the primary thought. That sense of presence. If that I am and that thought was the real, you'd be frightened at losing sight of it. But you give it up every night when you go to sleep, telling you innately you know you're not that I thought. You're not a thought at all. You are prior to the thought. You are not the body. You are not the mind. That's the pattern through which it expresses through. And that's the form that it expresses through. How does that form come about? Well, go back as far as your father and your mother. That animating life essence that you call your father, through the food he's eating and the prana, and enabled in that pattern a microscopic particle called a sperm to form. That sperm was suffused with intelligence. It knew what to do. The same in your mother. That animating life essence in your mother enabled another little microscopic particle called an egg or an ovum to form. That egg or ovum attached itself to the wall of the uterus. It knew what to do. Two microscopic particles knew what to do because the sperm swam to the ovum and penetrated the ovum. And when those two came together, that cell doubled again, and formed the little embryo, the little fetus, which is what you are today. What were you doing about it then? Nothing. And what are you doing about it today? Nothing. It's happening by itself, just the same as the earth is rolling around the sun right now. This part of the earth is facing towards the sun, so it's light. Now it'll keep rolling around, and the other side of the earth will come up to face the sun again, but this part will face away from it. It'll be dark, and the other part will be light. Does the earth know anything about daylight and dark? It doesn't. Does the sun know anything about daylight and dark? No. It's happening spontaneously and naturally. So when you were born, can you remember your birth? People try and tell you, I remember your birth. But how could they? Because you didn't have any words at your birth. And realise that you didn't learn words till you were about 2.5. When you picked up words, parents and fussing around you, speaking words, and the capacity of reasoning had developed in that little infant, and you started to work things out, and when they told you, I am Billy or little Jean, you would say, I am Billy or I am little Jean. I am this person. And from then on we reinforce it. We go to school and learn more words. And people tell us, and so we reinforcing it every day and believing in it every day, and it seems very real. That I am this separate entity, I am this individual, I am this person. I am is the sense of presence, which translates through the mind as that thought I am. Shakespeare told you that there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And when you look into the mind, this thing you call mind, I believe, see the way it's functioning, it's always vibrating in the interrelated opposites. It's either good or bad, pleasant, painful, past, future, happy, sad, loving, hating, whatever. Watch the mind and see how it functions. It's constantly dividing into the pairs of opposites. But the problem with that is we take the opposite to be separate from the other side. But good and bad are not separate. Pleasant, pain are not separate. Happiness and sadness are not separate. There is no thing separate in this manifestation. They're two ends of the one stick. So what we do when we take on the belief that this is good, I don't want the good things to go, not realising that everything is transient, everything is spontaneous, everything is changing right now in this moment. You haven't got the same bodies you walked into this room with. Realise that. And it's constantly changing. There are thousands of cells dying in it right now and being replaced. And each cell that's replaced knows what to do. A skin cell won't replace a liver cell. A liver cell won't replace a heart cell. Each cell suffused with that intelligence energy, that activity of knowing, knows what to do. So we've taken on this idea that we are this person. Now, when you look into that, look in the Bible what it says. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. That's called God. There's another label, another word we put on it. All things were made by Him, and there was nothing made that was made without Him. Isn't that so? We have words for everything in this manifestation. And they're all made by that innate intelligence energy that rolls the earth around the sun, causes the seasons to come and go, the tides to come in and out, that's breathing you, beating your heart, growing your hair and your fingernails, enabling you to speak and the language to come out. It's all Maya or illusion, all appearing to be real. And the thing is, we take on the belief that it is real. When you look in the dictionary and look up the definition of belief, the definition of belief is an unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. We haven't reasoned it out, we haven't looked into it, we've taken it to be true. Acceptance of an alleged fact without positive knowledge or proof. Here that you might take another look at things and see if something's moved you all here, but not happy with the way things are, and realise there's got to be more to it than what a lot of the scriptures tell you that have been corrupted and contaminated, and tell you you're a sinner, you're an unhappy person, you're a horrible person, you're this, that and the other, and you've got to become good. Becoming is not being. Understand that. And is there anyone in this room who is not being right now? Not being this or that, but pure being. And that being is knowing. And that knowing is loving to be. So that's the Satchitananda, in other words. So the search itself is the problem. Settle into that. See where it takes you when you're in it. And there's people in this room that have understood it. There's people who are looking at it, and people coming along to look at it because they're not happy with the religions which have got corrupted and along the way, and they call it, so you've got to do this practice and that practice, otherwise you're a sinner and unhappy, you get beaten up and you go to a place called hell, heaven and hell. Duality, no such thing. And never look at that in the Bible. Tell you that Adam and Eve are in paradise, in the Garden of Eden, in heaven. But what happened? They ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. They learnt words, in other words. As soon as they learnt words, they obscured themselves from the natural state and were kicked out of paradise. And that's what's happened. They get back and recognise your true nature and be what you are, not we believe ourselves to be. As I say, something comes up, see how it functions, something comes up and you like it. And we don't like the good things to go, not realising that they are transient. No matter how much you think of them, how much you love them, how much you want to keep them there, you can't because it changes. Just like day and night changes. We don't want it to go, so what do? We try to keep it there, we resist it. And don't you realise that resistance is conflict? If you're resisting something, you're in conflict with it. And if you're in conflict with it, it makes you unhappy, depressed, guilty, agitated, anxious, all the psychology that comes up from that resistance. So it makes you uneasy. So there's resistance, conflict and disease going on. What about when something comes up that you like? Or you don't like? It was like I said the first time, wasn't it? Yes, you don't like this time. You know, oh, I shouldn't be thinking that. I'm a bad person. I'm a sinner. I'll have to get rid of it. So what do? We resist the so-called bad things, try to get rid of them. Again, conflict and disease. So you see why all this conflict is going on. And Wei Wu Wei told you a few hundred years ago, he says, why are you unhappy? Because everything you say, everything you do, and everything you think is for yourself. And he says there isn't one. And when you investigate that, you'll see that's true. There is no personal self. And they tell you that clearly in other scriptures. They call it the one self, the Atman self. Only that. It's that self that is awareness. And there's nobody who is not aware. So it's not a personal self, not this body-mind. It's that self that's animating, expressing, and breathing and beating heart of this body-mind that formed this pattern, just the same as formed all these other pattern shapes and forms that are this manifestation. And it tells you again in the scriptures that it is a phenomenal manifestation, appears to be so, and it is a cognizing emptiness, the basic space of phenomena. Now there it is. They call it telling you what the base of it is. The base of it is space. Space is in this room. Space is outside the room. Look at space. Can you find a centre to it? Can you find a spot anywhere, or imagine a spot even, where space begins? You realise it has no beginning to it whatsoever. Does it have any boundaries? Is it contained in this room? Is it contained outside the room? Does it have any boundaries to it, any circumference to it? It hasn't. It is no thing. And everything, there's nothing you can postulate or think of that could be outside of space. Have a look at that, and what would it be in? Try and imagine something that's outside of space. It'd have to be in something. And you realise the only thing it would be in is space. Space is no thing, yet everything, and you and I are things, the trees are a thing, and the flowers are a thing, this room is a thing, are the content of space. And space, the basic space, is no thing. Can something come from no thing? Impossible. So realise that thing, you believe everything, is no thing. And you must recognise that there is only space. I am that space-like awareness. Can't be anything else. I'm not this person. I'm not this body. I'm not this mind. Now, all this psychological problems, anger, fear, depression, guilt, jealousy, envy, the whole lot, it's all conceptual, all belongs to me, believed in me. The word is not the thing. So, something cannot come from no thing. So the word that is only appearing to be something, and it needs something to express through. So it forms all these different patterns to express through. Other words, otherwise there could be no expression whatsoever, and we'd stay as that no thingness which we are. But we form these patterns to express through and experience and know our true nature. But it needs to be recognised that that is all there is. And you and I, everything else, are that already. And that, being a transient pattern of energy, you look into time and realise that time is a mental concept also, past, present and future. Well, try and live in the past if you think there's such a thing as time. Realise you can't go back and live the past. It's gone. You might be able to recall some of it, you won't recall all of it. And what you don't recall is gone forever, unless you read about it somewhere or other. And what you could recall about it, you can only recall it right now. So you can't live in the past. What about the future? Well, future is anticipation and imagination. You cannot live in the future. You can anticipate and imagine what you're going to do when you leave here, but it won't be the reality until you're actually doing it. And what you're anticipating and imagining right now will only be happening right now. Well, when does this now begin? Try and grasp it. I've got it now. As soon as I say that, it's gone. But I've got it now again. And you realise, if you look into it long enough, that this now is spontaneous. It's not a part of time, it's spontaneous. Lasts but you can't even say it's an instant, because that'll be close in time also. So you'll realise that you are this bodiless, mindless, timeless, spaceless, non-dual, 1 second, one without a second, the great reality. That's what they call it. The great reality is non-conceptual awareness. We've learned all these concepts and words. See the words, not the real. And the definition of belief, we believe in all these things. Look into the belief. Is it a fact or do you believe it? You look into belief, you'll see belief in your dictionary is an unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. We haven't reasoned it out, we've just taken it for granted. Acceptance of an alleged fact. There's a fact that we are these persons is alleged, without positive knowledge or proof. When you put it to the test, am I this body? Am I this mind? You'll see it falls apart. This body is made up of elements, nothing but energy. Mind is thought, thought is sound, word, a vibration. That's energy too. And that's what Einstein told you years ago. It's all energy. And that's right. Energy is a vibration, is somewhat of a movement, because it's spontaneous. It doesn't even last. Spontaneity. A throb, a pulsation, or whatever you like to call it. Anyway, recognise that you are that. And that is all there is. And that is all I'm saying at the moment. As I say, some of you have been here, they can talk about it and tell you about it as well as I can. And you might hear it in a few different words, which might resonate with you. And the resonation, that resonation is a recognition, a recognition, because that which is resonating with is the life essence of you that's hearing it and resonates and responds to it with a sense of well-being. So you might hear it there, or some of you might have doubts or questions. Don't hesitate to ask them, because that's how it's been passed down through the ages, from one so-called being to another. In the old days, people would talk about it, only one or so in a village would hear it and might only be able to pass it on to somewhere else. And then few would hear it and some would translate it, different take on it, and translate and corrupt it into putting all sorts of rules and regulations on it, that you're a sinner, you've got to do this and got to do that, to make their own understanding seem real and positive. But there was always the few that pointed to the truth. And that's the great scriptural saying, know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And the only freedom you need is the belief, freedom of the belief that you are this person. Take that fact that you are the reality, you are the absolute. And that's what they call it, the great perfection in Buddhism. What can you add to perfect? Nothing. What can you take away? Nothing. It wouldn't be perfect. So the great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. In Hinduism and others, they call it the absolute. What can you add to absolute? Again, nothing. What can you take away from it? Nothing. In the recognition of that I am the absolute. Who can ever be superior to you if you recognise that? Who can ever be inferior to you if you recognise that? You'll be taking something away from the absolute. It couldn't be. And what would you want from the other person? So don't you see that all this psychological suffering going through, the wars and everything, somebody wanting something from somebody else, something to believe they're better than others, a lot of those things would disappear, be unnecessary. As Nisargadatta says, realise you are dreaming a dream you call the world. He says, stop looking for ways out. The dream is not your concern. Your concern is to love one part of the dream and not the other. He says, love all of it or none of it. See it for what it is. You can't negate it really, and you can't, and it's all the one. Just love all of it or none of it. And this is a beautiful thing. He says, the rest will be done for you by the same life or essence that brought you into existence. What were you doing about it in the womb when the sperm and ovum came together? Nothing. What were you doing for the first couple of years of your life when you had no words? Nothing. You were being looked after. It's only in learning the words we've taken on the idea that we are this separate entity, an individual. It won't stop happening, but know the truth about it and let it express as it will. And that sense of well-being is the back of it all. The loving to be is there, naturally, inevitably. Don't they say God is love, if you like to use that term? If God is love, love must be God. And you know what love is, and you've got some concept about what you think this God is. Be the love, the well-being. And love one another, as they say, because it'll be only the one anyway. Anyway, away you go.
So, welcome everyone. We have about between 25 and 30 people at Bari, and we have a couple of welcoming messages, a couple of private messages, and there is one from Gilbert. Effortless and spontaneous. Who could suspect it is all happening without any me doing anything? Beautiful summary. And Laura, recognition. Life is beautiful once it is seen. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Laura. And we invite every one of you to contribute, say anything. If there is nothing coming up, maybe even just speaking up after that introductory spiel, what you really heard, what touched your heart, what will you take home with you that really rings true. Because even saying the same what Bob is putting out in the spiel, someone else may hear it. Someone else with less than 47 years of clarity, it may be more kind of down to earth if it's said by someone. Hi, Tony.
Don't forget to that parcel.
I know. Yeah, there's one more chair. Oh, yeah, thank you. So anyone would like to start? And we have the mic for the online community to hear what you say. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mean to say anything, but everyone was sort of looking at me, so.
You must say something.
Yes. It was just beautiful, your spiel this morning, Bob, and that whole thing is, that it doesn't stop. This expression doesn't stop, but, it keeps happening, but there's that underlying feeling of all is well, and little joy or something, not far from the surface, but all the shit keeps happening, and I'm dealing with it as it happens.
yeah.
So, yeah, and just love. I think this morning I was talking to my housemate and said, before having breakfast, and how would it be, if we all had a spirit of giving, just that, How would that be? You know, how would this world be if everyone had that? Just a spirit of giving, that whatever, love, you know. Thank you, that's all I got to say.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
My name is Saul. I can't get over this sense that I'm really stupid. I understand what you said. I've loved and listened to Nisargadatta for 20 years. But I'm still thick as a brick. What can I do?
Drop that concept.
Pardon?
Drop that concept.
Okay, how?
Pause the thought. What's wrong with right now if you don't think about it?
There's nothing wrong with right now.
Well, there you go. Nothing wrong, nothing right. Haven't dropped dead, haven't dropped dead. Still aware. It's no thing. But we can't grasp that. We're so used to, as I say, looking into things and being things, that you can't understand no thing. Because it's empty, a cognising emptiness. Emptiness is forming all these things. Look around you, see all these forms, and realise they're all empty patterns. Look in the mirror. What do you see in the mirror?
A thing.
Don't you?
A dancing thing. I mean, a formation in the mirror.
You see reflections?
A brick. A brick.
Reflection.
Reflections or images.
Pardon?
You will see reflections or images in the mirror. You'll see your face in the mirror, it's an image.
Yeah.
And the Nisargadatta tells you there's nothing can trouble you excepting your own imagination. And break that down to image in or imagine. So we were creating all these mental images and taking them to be real. And that's our trouble. You go to a mirror, try and grab the mirror image out of the mirror. You can't. It's not there. But it appears to be there. You can't say it's not there because it appears to be. But you know it is not there because you can't grab it. So it either is or is not. And that's the same with this manifestation. You can't say it is, you can't say it's not. Good and bad, you know, the two ends of the one stick, not separate. Everything is divided seemingly into the pairs of opposites, but it's all the one essence that's patterning, shaping, forming, experiencing and expressing as everything. And you are that essence. What's your next thought going to be?
Haven't got one.
You don't know. But you'll say, thought will come up and you'll say, I think. I think this thought. As soon as you say that, you formed a subject, a thinker. That's thinking the thought, which is the object. Subject-object is dualism. Ask yourself this, can there be a thinker without thinking? Can there be the thought without thinking? So subject, object are only the concepts of thought. The same with the seer. The thought I see can't see, the thought I feel can't feel, the thought I think can't think. All concepts. But there's seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, thinking, that's all going on. The I-N-G, the functioning is a reality. When you put the I onto it, or the me onto it, you've divided it. So they say, seeing no thing, yet it is seen. And that sounds funny, doesn't it? But when you look into it, that's what's happening. All this is no thing, including this, that's being seen. So it's all appearance, like reflections in the mirror. And you are that life that's about the shapes and forms already.
She would like to. She first. This one.
Just look like this.
This one, yeah.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Thank you so much, Primali. I listened to you, I think, about 2 years ago, and it was just magic. And I just want to say, he was saying he's feeling like a brick. And when I first listened to you, I thought I really got it. And that was so stupid. It was just a thought. And he's thinking he's don't understand anything. It's again another thought. And it took me a long time to see that. It's just concepts, whether we get it or not. Thanks.
Took me a long time too.
I like that. It's just a thought. I liked what you were talking about in the spiel about the vastness of space, the vastness of consciousness, and that's what we are, is that consciousness. Yet this self-conceptualizing comes up at times, and and yet in that sphere of vastness, that little concept that we take to be so important is something that just passes, like this morning's breakfast or seeing something on the way. It has an appearance and yet moves on, and the same with those concepts of self, except we tend to string them together and think that they're continuous, but really they're just appearances when they come up in our mind. I had a passionate argument with someone a week or so ago and thought, and I was thinking about it later in the day, and I'm feeling a bit turned up about it, and I'm thinking, what's that? Because the concept is I'm right and they are wrong, and suddenly that splits there, and the uncomfortability comes with that splitting off from just the energy, just the beingness, and then it loses its importance, really, because once you think you're right, you think, well, I've got to defend myself, and how do I make them see my point of view? And it's all imaginary, that there's any battle or anything that needs to be had there, because it's all just an illusion in the mind or a passing event, and yet we attach this whole concept of awareness, or what we see as awareness, into that, focus it into that one little event, and then keep focusing it there rather than letting it pass like the banks of the river moving past us. And everything in life has that movement.
I have a couple of people from our online community answering the question. Vivek says, Bob's every pointer is so clear and compassionate. And yes, when you actually take on board that simple question, he said, what's wrong with right now if you don't think about it and you realize nothing? There's no I, there's no you, there's nothing. If there's no thought, there's no problem, there's no separation. There is no concept of being brick. There is no concept of getting it, not getting it, needing it in future or any time. Nothing when the thought is paused. But of course, there is no one here to control the thinking and start it or stop it. That's the point. There is no one there who has any control over it. So that pointer is really just to resonate and have a quick check of what Bob was just saying. Did you disappear? No. Did the heart stop beating? No. So everything's going on. Seeing's going on. Hearing's going on. The leaving is going on without the thinking. So then the thinking comes back, of course. And the idea of, no, this is I doing the seeing and objects and all that divisions come up in that empty space. And of course, that's the nature of thing. But once we know that without that thinking, life didn't stop. The leavingness is still there. Just no problems, no separation, no entity, no identity, no belief in being something else or anything at all. There's no belief of being anything at all, not even of being absolute or being clear or being enlightened. None, zero, zilch. And then the mind comes back and say, hey, I have to find it, this state, this supreme state that everyone is talking about. I, the imagined self, have to find a state that I will hold a bliss forever and ever. That's a ridiculous story. Like Primali was saying, that this is the thought. I had it or I didn't get it. They're both equal. They're both just objects appearing in that open field of space of knowing. Before the thoughts came up, that space of livingness, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, singular, experiential, directly, space of being, uncovered by any clouds, is prior to those thoughts coming up and clouding it. And we are that, prior to thought. Thought is just another transformation of energy. Like perception is a transformation of energy or action. All of it is like, this is not a source, it's already further away from that essence, because it's already manifesting as something. I am not a thought because I'm aware of thought. But who is aware? Is it the me that is aware, or is it just the pure knowing? So this is what Vivek was saying. Every pointer is so clear. Really just have to take it to the heart, because the mind can't hear it. For the mind, we are all talking about nothing. Not the no thing, full and radiant and alive, but nothing, bullshit. So mind can't hear it. Only the heart can fully hear that this is not nothing, but it still is a no thing, which neither exists nor it doesn't. It's a fully blown mystery of radiance and beauty. So Jasmine says, you have to trust. And that's a beautiful, beautiful comment. Thank you, Jasmine. Bob says, relax into that. You know you exist before the thinking comes up. That's the knowing. That's not a belief. You can't stop being. That's the truth. Just trust in that, relax into that. The rest will reveal itself. And Ram says, there is no giving without taking. And Vivek, drop the I thinking being stupid. It's a mind play. Stay in the heart and stay there. Beautiful, Vivek, yeah. Drop the I. It's no one to drop it, but recognizing that it's just an appearance. It's really enough, usually. And Laura says, spirit of giving and spirit of kindness. How hard is that? As Jesus said, what I do or say to the least of my brothers, I do to me. This is being seen in an indisputable way here. Beautiful. And Jasmine says, you can slice and dice in million ways. There is no answer there. You have to go through and beyond. Beautiful. There is no answer there. That's the one thing that you can really understand fully in your mind. The answer is not there. Mind doesn't have answer. All the answer that comes to the mind is just a bundle of concepts which appear in that sphere of awareness. And Gilbert says, conceptualizing is fleeting and renewing itself constantly. The timeless nature of naked cognizing cannot be stored in memory of me. Absolutely. Me is an image made of past memories, concepts. It's nothing that it hasn't got any capacity to do anything, to store anything, to know anything, to recognize anything. It's an image. Image can't grasp or get anywhere to any state. And Vivek says, lacking, incompleteness, etc. are all tricks of the mind. Do not buy what mind tells. Yeah, beautiful. Lacking and incompleteness, sense of unworthiness, sense of there is something wrong with me, sense I'm not fully, or I have to complete myself, find myself, embellish myself, improve myself. Any sense that I am separate self, that is less than the absolute, than the pure field of knowing, will cause a lack. It's all belief-based. It's all because the mind buys into, because the energy of belief goes into a concept. Without the thinking, there is no deficient I. There is no sense of, or even healthy I, or healthy ego, unhealthy. There's no ego, frankly. Yes, so thank you for reminder, Vivek, and Dean has the mic.
And now give it to
I was going to say something.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it's going to come out, but I'm not. That doesn't really matter. My heart's beating a lot more. I notice the body responds when you're about to talk and stuff, but I can't get back to just the immediacy of this thing. Like it's just the immediacy. Like it's an energetic immediacy before the mind comes in and starts to narrate everything. And I think the big pointer is one that needs to be looked at is the concept, is the time, looking at time and seeing that as a complete conceptual thing as well. Like the me can only exist in time, and time is a concept. So anything where it's going, this is what I've been doing for years and this is what I'm not getting, is already going out into that conceptual time arena, if that makes sense. So I don't know what I'm trying to say. So saying this backstory, the backstory isn't there now because it's not it doesn't exist, and the future doesn't exist, and the me can only exist in that. So that's what really needs to be fundamentally investigated, and saying, well, how can that be? But there's something here without time. That it's not even now, it's prior to. Now is also a unit of time that doesn't exist either. So it's a beingness prior to all that investigation sort of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, beautiful.
Good about that.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Martin.
Hey everyone. I feel really good right now. I don't know about you guys. I was driving yesterday, and I was thinking, this idea popped up, and it was like, oh, we're all given a name from our parents, All parents are given a name. My name was given to me, it was Marty, or Martin, or however you want to say it, but it was given to me, and Bob points out that we end up sort of recognising this name, or we start taking on this label, from the age of 2. It could even be later, who knows. And then we go on to think that this label that we've been given, already a couple of years into our lives, is the cause for all of this. A word or a label that's been given, and now you're claiming this label to be the cause for this. Just doesn't even make any sense, this was here prior to you ever had a label or ever had were given a name. And how could a word make this? I don't even know. That's just such a funny statement. That's all I had to say.
Great. Yeah, words can't really. Belief, that's a mystery. How does the belief happen? You want to elaborate on that, Bob? The energy of belief. It's one energy. It's not a different energy. It's no different to any other expression of the energy.
Well, you hear the word and you go to school and you've got to remember it. Recall it, keep bringing it back. And that's the trouble, we lock into it. And the same with this, if you recognise that you are that self and keep reminding, be transformed by the renewing of your mind, it says in the Bible. How would you renew your mind? Simply by reminding yourself that you're not the mind.
And I still would like to thank you, Sol, for actually bringing it up, because it takes a guts to actually stand up. A lot of people show up and never speak or never ask questions or never admit to those doubts, and we do really, really appreciate someone to take a stance and do it for those who can't find the balls to do that. And I remember being in that position where I couldn't ask questions. I was seeing Bob coming to the groups for 2 years whenever I could, because I was working at sea, so I could only show up every couple of months or so. Never really finding a courage to speak. And it was just that one time when I asked him a question, but I couldn't even hear the answer. I needed the recording to listen to it later because it was too overwhelming to even force myself to open my mouth. And it was so important. It was the only important thing in the whole universe. It was so heavy because of that sense of importance. And the final answer is just complete lightness, that heaviness, that importance, that significance of those questions and all that search is all completely mind-made, but you can't see it until it just drops away, because then you see what's missing, that incredible tension, anxiety, stress. But it does, I mean, we can see people coming here for a while, we can see people who stopped coming here because they don't need it anymore. We see people who sometimes show up out of love and respect for Bob and share the message, because it does get easier. The more and more of that resonation with something that everyone already innately knows in their heart. Because as Bob said, everyone was born prior to language, before they were given the name. They were babies, they had all their instincts, they knew how to make the mother care for them, without even having a concept that they need that care. So we were born to the natural state, and it is all underlying there, underneath that level of overlay of concepts. So when you hear Bob speaks, and you're right, of course there is a great intelligence in every fraction. There's a great intelligence in the way the body came about, how it grew from a little blob, a little cell, intelligently, into the complexity that it has today, into the brain with all the electrical signals and all that stuff. Incredible. Every little bit of pointer of his, it's just to blow the mind, really, and to say, wow, yes, right. Deep in the heart, everyone knows that it is a great unknowable mystery. And it can't be, the answer to who am I can't be found. The definition, I am whatever, nothing, or I am God, they're all words, they're all nonsense. The answer is really the absence of question, when the questioning goes away completely, and you just merge with that space-like open field of knowing. So you are the whole field, and you can't even say that this is what you are, because there is no you to differentiate. There is nothing that is not it. So for the mind, it's completely incomprehensible. It can't ever be comprehended. And even the descriptions seemingly complicate it further, because it's so simple. Like the way you see the wildlife, the wild creatures. We had tame creatures here, a couple of cats roaming around. They don't have concepts of needing to get somewhere or achieve something. They don't have concepts of being inferior, being not good enough, or being not enlightened, or deficient in any way, or stupid. Life is leaving them. They have no, as far as we know, no place in the brain which hallucinates a little me. So they don't need to get enlightened, because they have never been endarkened by that crazy idea of separation. But that idea is also a part of brilliance of life, because that idea enabled the idea of identifying with an image, created that magnificent variety of connections between that whole planet, between people in various ways, exchanging stories, finding, it's brilliant. When you see the whole picture, and you are not bound to believe that this is true, that this is I, this is who I am, this is what I need to defend. It's mind-blowing.
Thank you. Yeah, Bob, from your talk today, I'm struck by the absolute ephemerality of everything. You know, it's just like that. But the thing is that that's really a natural state, isn't it?
just looking at a really natural, easy thing is to recognise that nothing is concrete. No idea can be concrete. No emotion, no nothing. Here is concrete. So what we are is a flow or a process rather than anything concrete, aren't we? The problem comes from this tension we have between wanting to make what is not in concrete form concrete. You know, the tension is between trying to make that real, always, constantly. And this is what we do with our conceptual minds. Trying to make things real, trying to hold the universe dead all the time. Always it's in flux, isn't it? It's always moving. That's what we are, we're moving. So, yesterday we had a interesting experience with this. We went to buy a mower, a ride-on mower, right? And from the shop, and I had arranged it beforehand that the guy was going to sell me the mower. We got there and everything was awry, you know. And under normal circumstances, I felt the urge to kind of make up a story and to get into an argument with the guy, right? You promised, blah, 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 blah. But I couldn't do it. There was some urge in me rather to be happy, rather than to hold on to something which had already left completely gone. I couldn't find it anymore. I was just happy to be there. I was just looking at the furrow in the guy's head. All his stress, was in that furrow. But, it was just fun in the end. And that is the true nature, isn't it? That's our true nature, is that everything is empty, moving, changing all the time. Even the human intellect, which we think is so bright, is actually the dumbest thing in the universe. We're all thick as a brick. If we think that we're relying on concepts to give us any reality at all. So this is it. This is how we let go. We let go simply by looking at reality now and coming to terms with the absolute simplicity of it all. This is not complicated, not a complicated issue at all. It's very, very simple. Just look at what's happening now, and your experience will show you exactly what this is, if you like, which I don't know what it is, but I feel it.
What the
Thank
last?
That's
finished.
Yes,
Okay.
go.
The last thing Bob said, you said, Bob, was vibrating patterning of energy.
Yeah.
I was going to say, what's the point of all this? Bob, if you do your job well, and Kat, if you do your job well, we ain't really got any questions anyway, because nothing's popping up. But all I know is some of the downstream effects, like I saw this guy the other day walking down Ackland Street. I haven't seen him for a year, but he owes me $800. And I thought to myself, I don't even care. And I think that's part of it. And then yesterday I was driving my car, and I'm just cruising along in that kind of awareness that you have when you're driving your car, where you've got to be aware, but just really chill out awareness. And if I'd gone even a little bit faster, another car just shot right in front of me. If I'd been going just a little bit faster, they were smashed into my car and smashed into my door. But I think that's another effect of just, living without too many concepts. I think you still have concepts, but over time there's kind of less of them. You don't need to grasp onto them so much. You're sort of just letting go piece by piece until you just sort of move into a flow. Also, when I work, sometimes I do furniture removals and it's a big day. And there's a lot of furniture to move and I'm not feeling like it. So I go, hang on, let's not think about it. And my boss says, do you want to see a picture of all the stuff we've got to move? I go, no. I'll just stay in the moment. and you just stay in the moment. You just move one piece at a time, stay in the moment, and before you know it, the job's finished. So I think there's some of the effects of what Bob's talking about. Of course, there's other effects, but if you build it up too much in your mind, there's so much resistance, so much pain. It's just horrible. But it's good to just let it all go and just let the guy that owes me money go and let the car go in front of me instead of hitting me. Yeah. Let the furniture kind of move itself. So, yeah, thank you, Bob.
Thank you. That's good.
Can I ask another question? Can I ask another question? There was one question that I would love to have been able to ask Nisargadatta, because he talks about how from the absolute spontaneously this Prakriti and Purusha, these principles of duality emerge, and then they have this dance and stuff, and it kind of, I get the impression that it comes out of love, the love to be. But I notice that sometimes people would ask Nisargadatta, but why? Something like this. Why does it even happen? Why does manifestation even emerge? And I always felt like he was kind of somehow slippery in his answers. I still, there's something in me that wants to understand why even anything.
Well, that's what he said. Yeah. Ask why. Who wants to know?
I feel like I am that absolute that wants to know. Why did I do this? What the fuck more was I thinking?
You didn't. No, nothing ever happened.
Okay, but that sounds like a slippery answer to me.
It's a dream.
Well, ponder over it and see.
Yeah.
What?
I say ponder over it and see, looking into it, you'll recognise the truth.
But loving to be is really, I think it's one of my favorite answers, because, of course, every answer, why, is the mind inviting you to create a story. So it is just moving away from the truth. Every why question is invitation for justification, explanation, story. It's killing the mystery. It's to say, no, there is a simple answer. For example, Absolute was bored. Or for example, Absolute just were bursting into creation because we call God the creator. So creator, what does it do? It creates. It says it's an original cause. All of those are just stories. So they, rather than really going into a story and believing particular version of a story of creation, and now you can have different people resonating with different one. People who predominantly fear boredom will say, oh yeah, absolutely. Who would ever want to experience eternal nothingness? Yes, boredom, this is the answer that resonates with my heart. And other people who are actually drawn, very, very creative, and very, very kind of oriented in the diversity, lovers of the abundance, they would say, oh yeah, creation. The first, the original cause is the creativity of the universe. That's why it was done. Yet another ones will resonate, oh, loving to be, everything wants to be, everything wants to express its being, its love for being, and that's the only way to isolate and discriminate itself on the background of non-being. So see, there is many, many stories. Another story was, because when you forget that you are the light and you experience the darkness, you crave the light and you go on a journey of finding it. So you lose yourself to find yourself, and that's the play. They call it Leela, the God's sport or divine game. That's another story. They're all beautiful stories. You can pick and choose and believe whichever one you want. But I think the best answer I heard Bob saying, who wants to know, that's a good answer because it straight away points at the source. It is you who is the dreamer. So you, why is the mystery of dreaming happening? You know the answer. That is within you, not within him. He can't tell you. But another one he answers is, why not?
And one I learnt when I was a kid, and I used to ask why, They told me, why is a crooked letter? It can never be straightened.
And it is a valid question. It's fascinating. We all love the stories.
So one of the things I like about coming here is the diversity of perceptions and or stories or whatever. And you know, when I hear the answer to this gentleman's question that you'd like to ask Nisargadatta, I really resonate with that, because I was born with Y, WHY written on my brain, and you know, when I was at school in science class, I used to get nicknamed Y, because that's all I ever did. And I rather suspect that when I came here for many years, I was always asking why. 3 times a week I was asking why. And you know what? I suddenly realised that all the questions I asked were they weren't the sort of things that I wanted to know. The answers that I had no questions all of a sudden, but whenever now I ask why, and I still ask why 20 times a day, I hear the answer, but the answers are just more mind stuff. Yes. They don't do anything. They don't point to what we're all here for. You know, and Bob's things, well, who's asking? I mean, that's a short answer, but you know, mine's a bit longer. Yeah.
But that's beautiful. Yeah. Thank you, Paul.
Just bring it unless you want to say something. No? Thank you.
Just bring it to
Tony?
Yeah, I always go with the why not, but it's like, why should why have more precedence than why not, you know? And when they both just come to that point in the middle that's neutral, that just seems purer and more fundamental than going to one side of why or the other side of why not. Just stay, you know.
Yeah, that's a beautiful answer, Tony. Thank you.
The thing is, when this is more experienced, like there's nothing that needs to know why, or there's nothing that wants to ask or have any answer to anything. So it doesn't. There's nothing there that it's not. It doesn't even need to understand anything. Like it's not required. So, but the thing I was going to say is like it's important, I think, to see that the me is like a story. So it's the story of me. It's not actually me, sort of thing, or it's not what I am. So it's like if someone's telling a story about something, it's like not what it actually is. It's like a narration or just the description of something that apparently might have happened. It's not what actually is. So I think it's good to see that the me is just a complete story on a continuum of time that doesn't exist, and it doesn't exist right now. So
beautiful. Michael, did you want to speak? Oh, sorry. I thought I had you.
I felt thick as a brick for a long time too, and sometimes I still feel thick as a brick. But I mean, some of the thing that's kind of really helped me that Bob has shared, and it's like, what's wrong with right now if you don't think about it? But another way of looking at that is, what else is there? So, and then Paul Hederman uses the phrase, it's just ordinary dog shit awareness. This is it, It's not some big, bright, sparkly boom of light and love, and although it can be that, but that's it's just this. So I don't know, Bob, if you wouldn't mind sharing. I know you've had some big experiences. What's the difference between those big experiences? Is that what it is? Or if it's not that, what is it?
Everything is that, and there is no thing.
But passing phenomena is passing phenomena. Experience that has beginning and an end is just another cloud on the sky. And you are the sky. Did you want to elaborate? I have a couple of comments from our online community. JB says, when thought is paused, there is still intelligence, but it can't be defined. Knowing is not knowing something specific, but knowing is seeing, hearing, senses happening spontaneously. No one is there making any of it happen. Me exists only as time-bound. Timeless, absence of concept and belief in time. Great spiel, Bob. Clear as usual, thank you. That's from JB.
Thank you, JB.
And then Gilbert says, life is spontaneous. There is no formula or preconception necessary. And Kate, the answer is the absence of the question. Love that, thank you. And Vivek, commenting on Gilbert's no formula. No formula. On lighter note, all formulas are wrong. Newton's law, E equals mc square, body organs working on certain principles, etc., are all false, and a smile. And Laura, a great example, and they are relevant in a dream, but they are still part of the dream. Great example of it working in the real world, letting someone who owes you money just fade away. Beautiful. And JC, Bob, good to see ya. And British Julia, wonderful and beautifully busy meeting. Thank you, Bob and Kat. And Laura, dog shit awareness and laughing. Bob sometimes quotes this from that ancient scripture, seeing with naked awareness. They have like a big line of pearl shell awareness, sort of diamonds, blah, 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 elaborate names that you can't even, very, very long Indian names with tons of letters. And at the very end it says, or some call it ordinary awareness. And Bob adds garden variety, ordinary awareness, which for the mind is so taken for granted, is so overlooked. It really is the nothing. So that's that.
And I'm often surprised that it surprises me that how well things turn out when I just get out of the way. You know, when I try and I have all these great plans for doing things, and then I get frustrated that they don't work out, or that things change, which they inevitably do, and then when I give up and just then somehow something that I completely didn't think of just works itself out. So yeah, sometimes just let it be, get out of the way, or at least the mind, because the mind always wants to know. That's what it's designed to do, and it'll never stop wanting to do that, because that's its purpose. Whether that's scientists looking inwards and outwards, and you know, the biggest telescope or the smallest thing, it'll never end. They'll keep finding something smaller and something larger. It's just because that's the projection is endless. The projection is endless. So yeah, we'll just keep going.
Paula.
I just want to say I'm really aware of what awesome, good fortune or karma, or just to be here at this point in time, to have this opportunity. It is extraordinary, actually. And also by the end, I can feel it now, and just like I look around and it's like someone's gone around, I don't know, like I'm tripping, you know. Everything is just, and it's not, you know, it's ordinary awareness, but everything is brilliant, like the green, the people, her alabaster white skin, the brown, everything is clear and luminous. So, yay.
Yeah, just an observation on that question about who wants to know. And I used to find that a really hard one to take when Bob would say, who wants to know back to me? And I think, well, I bloody well want to know. But then the other big question was, who am I? And there's no answer to that. I am I is all the answer you can come up with. And, you know, big imponderables like what is love, and can you describe awareness? Can you describe love in any satisfactory way to the mind? You know, it's all you can say is I am that, I am love, I am awareness, and you know, it points us back to the fact that, you know, awareness is primary. The mind comes up in awareness, but it can't deal with any of that stuff. It's beyond thinking, and it's beyond the mind, and it just is. And what is happening now is inexplicable, and it's just that. It's just, it can't be described or contained in the mind.
Absolutely.
It can't be described, but we have a go at it. The ancient Chinese Buddhists said, this reality has 3 dimensions to it. And the first dimension is pure being. Second dimension is perfect enjoyment. And the third dimension is magical emanation. But these 3 are actually just one. They can't be, there's no differentiation between them. And another thing, we've been talking about spontaneity. It's interesting to note that word in English comes from a Sanskrit root, svota. And from svota we get spontaneous. And this is the, if we put everything together that's happening now, this is an explosion in consciousness. This is the Big Bang that scientists talk about. It's all happening now. So, just to put in a good word for the mind, it gets a terrible beating here. The ancient teachers of Dzogchen they had a word for ordinary mind they call sems, and then there's the pure mind, and the pure mind is the creator of everything. It all comes from this pure mind. Everything that can be imagined manifests. It's here now. It's in the great diversity of what we each contribute to each week. And it's all part of this great magical show.
Tony? Oh.
Starting to think a whole lot of stuff comes back down to the whole free will concept. And whenever, there's looking in here, there's never like a, little Tony running around. There's never blueprints. There's never rules and regulations. There's none of any of that stuff in there ever. So to say there might be, and it's not, somehow not showing up. But billions of people say there definitely is, and they haven't even probably looked inside. I'm starting to think, I've always given everyone the benefit of the doubt, but now I'm starting to think they just don't actually even even look ever, really, and they don't realise how much they're not looking, and how every 2 words really has another assumption in it, and they're not unpacking the sentence they say about what's going on in here. You know, look at every 2 words and see what assumption got made then. And if you can't see any of that stuff and they're happening, so why do you need to know a why? Because what could be done with it anyway if there's nothing that can be done with a why? There's nothing that can be moved or changed or fixed by knowing the why. I'm not sure people just feel unsettled and want to ask why, or whether it's then I can do something. But yeah, I mean, if you can't do anything with any of it, then there's no need for why. And actually, I know why people either, they tend to personality-wise go with, what, how, who, when. And I've always Cole being the why. And it's like, yeah, okay, now I can see why I don't have a proper career or anything. Because I'm just sitting here asking why all the time and not doing anything. But the fundamental, ultimate use of a why is useless. So why just becomes a fun, interesting thing that's done for no purpose. And that's enjoyable. That's it.
So one of the amazing things that I think we all find about this is, you can forget an understanding that you have. You can forget, a pointer that Bob or Kat has given you, and you can forget what it is you knew just before. But you can't forget this. No matter how hard you try, you can't forget it. It's yeah. So I think that's just an amazing thing. Something that we all are. And just naturally, we can't forget it.
Did you want to say something, Bob?
Yeah.
Now, I have a couple of comments from the online community. Here is from Gilbert. If the narrative says this will never end, it will appear so. There is no beginning to mind and no end. And Bradley, to paint the canvas of consciousness with a paint called thought is to paint a demon and go running from the room while forgetting who holds the palette. Brilliant. Yes?
We'll have a look at the Sermon on the Mount in the Bible. It says, take no thought for your life, what you shall eat, what you shall drink, what you shall wear. Which of you by taking thought can add 1 cubit of his stature? Consider the birds in the field. They don't sow or gather into barns, or the lilies in the field. Even Moses or Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of those. Mm-hmm. Your Father knoweth you have need of these things, and it's your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Father's not Big Daddy in the sky, that life essence, that innate knowing. Be open to it, recognise it, see what comes up.
And recognize it in all thy ways. Recognize that it's beating your heart right now. Recognize that it's doing the seeing, that life. You don't do the seeing, you wouldn't know how. That recognize thee in all thy way. The life is looking out of your eyes. The life is hearing itself, is experiencing, expressing itself in all thy ways. There is no space, no room for you and I. Bob sometimes points to the omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience. There really is only that, only life. And that you are. And that you can't forget that you are. You can't not know that you are. You know that you are. Okay, so that's that. And
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, the
yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.